So what we're going to do over here, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Christian Dye, and I am the Senior Advisor Director of Latitude West Financial. And I've invited 3 of my current UBC Dental School clients to come and give some advice, essentially to those of you who just got in. And what I'm going to do over here is we're going to kind of have a very casual Q&A period. I'm going to ask several of the questions. I'll leave an opportunity to chat. And I've had one of my new young first year dental school clients also provide me with a series of questions that he had on his mind. So we have Danilo, who is 4th year. Danilo, say hello.
Hi,
Hussein,
I'm Danilo.
Hussein, who is entering into 3rd year. Say hello, Hussein, over
Hey
there.
guys.
And then Rajan, who is also entering into 3rd year. Say hello, Rajan.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so I think what we're going to do is let's jump right into it over here. So the greatest advice for our first year UBC dental students. But before we do that, just a quick reminder. For those of you who are entering to first year and are on Instagram, please join my Instagram at Latitude West Financial. And the reason why you want to join is because I'm always giving sort of financial questions, and I give a $50 gift certificate each week as the prize, whoever gets, sort of a random draw for the question. But I also share all of my webinar and workshop talks that I'm about to give through the Instagram. It's sort of my chosen social media platform. So please join the Instagram, win a $50 gift card given out on a weekly basis. And it's this Instagram at Latitude West Financial is actually just meant for dentists or dental students. Okay, so first year advice, do's and don'ts. We have a lot of different kind of topics we could talk about over here. I'm going to do a bit of a round table over here. Hussein, you've when you went through first year, I want you to tell me about some things that some advice that you'd like to give, some things that really helped you out, or maybe some things that you wish you hadn't had done.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for having us, Christian, and hosting this talk. So do's and don'ts for first year. Yeah, so basically, once you enter dental school, at least in my experience, there was a bit of a shift that I realized in that before entering from undergrad, usually it's a bit more competitive, and everyone wants to get top grades to enter dental school. And it's a competitive profession to get into. But once you get in, after a little while, what I realized was that the courses are a bit different, and the instructors are different in that they really want you to succeed, which it's coming from undergrad is quite a new experience. And I wish that starting from first year, especially in the first term, where the course load gets hard compared to what you would see in undergrad, I would have reached out to the instructors, because later on, at the end of second year, and then at the end of second term and first year and in second year, when I would speak with the instructors, I really found out that they actually do care about you learning, and they want to help you, and they spend time with you if you need any extra help. And so you kind of see that it's a different environment, and it's really important, in my opinion, to right from the start. If you have challenges, and they will come up, everyone's going to have challenges in different areas. Make sure to reach out to instructors and ask for help. And same goes with your peer group, everyone else around you. It's, again, a less competitive environment, and everyone's trying to help each other get through. So yeah, make sure to reach out for help. That was the biggest thing that I wish I'd done if I was starting again in first year.
Got it. Rajan, let's go to you. So when you were entering into first year, some things you kind of feel that you totally did right, or some things that you had wish you had done?
So one thing that I think is really important that I learned over my past 2 years here is to not compare yourself to your classmates. This is a major thing, because when you start dentistry, obviously It requires a big learning curve in terms of developing your hand skills. And there's some people in your class who will have amazing hand skills from the second they touch the drill and everything looks perfect. And then there's others who's it's going to take a lot more practice to get there. But over time, when you practice enough, you do get there. It's just really, really hard not to compare yourself in the beginning. Because I remember when I was in my first year, the person who was my neighbor in ops, she had amazing hand skills. And every time she did anything for the first time ever, it would look flawless. And I would always be so sad to be like, why don't my preps look like that? And why don't my restos look like that? But it's been 2 years now, and over practice, you do get there. So I think that's definitely one thing to make sure you remember in first year, that it's not going to be perfect in the beginning, and you will get there with experience. So that was something that I would go back and tell myself. In terms of like other things that I think I did well, I would say having an important balance between your school life and your social life is really important, because like Hussein said, in dental school, it's not as much of a competition anymore. It's more of a community. You've done all the hard work that you've needed to do to get in. So you don't need to get 99% in every single class anymore. You need to focus on prioritizing the things that are going to be best for you to learn clinically. And the relationships that you also develop in dental school are going to be your lifelong friends. Like, they're going to be your colleagues, and they're going to be the ones that you are working with forever. So I think definitely having a good balance between your school life and your social life is really important. And that's what made my time at dental school so fun. And I love every aspect of it. So that's what those would be the main like 2 takeaways, I would say.
Sure. I'm going to jump in, Rajan, and ask you a question over here.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid, but we know it's going to happen. One of these young first years jumps in and they realize right away their hand skills aren't as good as their classmates. They were sort of the top of the class in undergrad, but now they're not so much, and now they're getting a little bit panicked. Is there anything that they could do on top of what the school is providing to improve those skills? Any weekend, or after school type of things in order to catch up to speed with their classmates?
Yes. So in first year, we don't really get any extra clinic time outside of what's already scheduled for us. So you will have clinical practice sessions in school where everybody's coming in and they're practicing the different activities that they have planned for us for developing our hand skills. However, there's no extra time outside of school that's allocated for first years. And the reason why that's the case is because the instructors and the faculty know that over time, everyone's going to develop good hand skills anyway. So allocating that extra time to first years in dental school isn't really the best use of the school's time, because everybody will catch up. But what happens is in second year, you do get, and in third year, you get night practice sessions. So night practice happens twice a week for 3 hours in the evening from 6 to 9. And that's an opportunity for everyone to come in and be able to practice any exercises that they're having difficulty with, or if they just want to make their hand skills better, anything like that. And obviously, if you want to find other ways to improve your hand skills, then there's always other activities that you can do outside of school. So for example, there's some students in our class who do like nail art or playing an instrument or things like that, which isn't directly transferable, but I guess it still teaches you hand skills that are required to do, I guess, more smaller things with your hands, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I'm going to shift gears over here. Danilo, you've now gone through 3 full years, and you're still in school right now because of the summer. But if you could remember back to first year, I know it was a while ago, especially with the changes in COVID and things of that sort. But what were some of the things that you kind of, the do's, for sure do this and try not to do that?
Okay, yeah, so I'm Danilo, 4th year student, or I guess kind of 4th year. We're still technically finishing off 3rd year, but I'm remembering back to kind of when school started, and one thing that I think that the other students previously mentioned, but I think it's also is really important, is just don't compare yourself to others. And not just clinically, but also academically, you had to be the top 10% of your undergrad classes to get to here. And so don't feel bad if you're in the bottom half of your dental school class academically, because, for one, it's knowing dentistry on pen and paper is very different than knowing dentistry, clinically in the mouth. And second of all, you're comparing yourself to people that were, the top of their class as well. So really try not to compare yourself to others, and just focus on developing yourself, and just not just comparing to other people. Another thing to mention, that was a thing that I did that really benefited me is, if you have some free time, either between lectures, or if you're like me, maybe there's some lectures you just don't want to go to, I would take the time to go to the clinic when they're working, when there's third and fourth years doing dentistry there, and see if there's anything you can do to help out, and see if there's anything you can do to maybe get some more experience. So we'll see how the setup is going into this next year. So previously, every student that was in third and fourth year would be seeing patients on their own, but right now we've been working in pairs. So if we're still working in pairs next year, there's going to be, I think, less opportunity for first and second years to kind of go around and help out the third and fourth years. But even then, just if you can't sit next to the person and see what they're doing, just being in the area, talking to instructors, knowing how the computer systems work at UBC, that's a really big thing. Knowing how to chart things on the computer when you're writing some like notes in their health record, you need to know how to do that properly, and that's a big learning process at UBC. They kind of just like throw you under the bus with that. You just gotta figure out how to use these programs on your own. Figuring out like UBC protocol for, if you're doing a filling, the steps you got to do before that, what kind of signatures do you need to get from instructors, what do you need to present to them to do that. And so being in the clinic, when I was being in the clinic before I actually started patient care, and taking some time in first and second year to either stay longer throughout the day, or maybe skip a lecture here and there, it really benefited me, I think. So if you have the time, either if you have the free time, and I do it for sure, and if you're feeling the willingness to maybe skip out on a lecture here and there, it's really useful to just kind of dive into the clinic and see the actual work being done, and not just the academic side.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point over there, Danilo. I just want to peel off a couple more layers over here. So you sort of find that, would you say the greatest challenge inside the dental school is getting up to speed, getting exposure to clinics, getting your hands faster and more accurate? Or would you say it is the academics, having to get through the tests, having to get through, the lectures, having to study? What do you sort of find is sort of, Danilo, from your point of view, what was the most challenging?
So I'm one of the students that really doesn't care too much where I rank in the student pool, because I'm not trying to specialize, and I'm not feeling any need to really compete with my classmates. So grade wise, I'm in the bottom half for sure, and so because of that, I don't really put in as much effort into the academic part of things. I still learn everything that I need to be a competent student dentist, but I put a lot of my effort onto the clinical component, and understanding what I'm doing when I'm seeing my patients and why I'm doing that. So I think the harder part for sure is the clinical component, and it should be the harder part, because if you're making the academics harder than the clinical part, then I don't think you're doing it right, because at the end of the day, the real dentistry and what you're going to be doing when you leave school is going to be the clinical part, and the books and stuff just kind of don't really matter as much anymore. And I'm just thinking back, to the first year, and what I learned then about the digestive system and the nervous system, and comparing that to what I do in clinic now, they're not the same. And so focus on the clinical, focus on the dentistry, but still understand the books, and don't just barely scrape by. Do okay, but you don't need to be the best in the books in the class.
Sure. No, it's great that you reiterate that. I'm kind of bouncing around between some of the questions that have been sent to me. And then I guess you guys have sort of answered a couple of them in terms of workload. But so there is a question here on workload, and I guess this question, I'm going to kind of paraphrase it, is going into dentistry, especially the academic part, should we be tackling it in the same way, kind of in undergrad, where, you know, pounding away to study super hard for the test, you know, really trying to, I don't know, like, should we be staying away from like the all nighter? Should we be staying away from studying past certain hours over here? Is rest and being fresh in the morning more important than trying to pound out 1 or 2 more hours of studying? So I'm going to sort of open this question up to any three of you, Rajan, Hussein, whoever wants to kind of chime in on this, you know.
Can I start on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
I gotta. So imagine you got your grade on your y-axis, on your x-axis you have your effort.
Yeah.
And in undergrad you'd have like a pretty linear and then a bit logarithmic, kind of, you know, kind of like flattens out, where you put in a lot of effort but your grade doesn't really go up. In dentistry it's even more logarithmically. It's just really flat. Like everyone just kind of gets to the same area, where no matter how much extra effort you put in, no matter how much you memorize these textbooks, everyone's going to kind of be in that like 80 to 85 range. I think like in my class, like 70% of the class is within like 4% of each other. So there's really no need to put in all this extra crazy effort to try to get an extra percent here and there on the academics. So yeah, like I'd say workload wise, I'd put it as less than undergrad, because in undergrad you need to go on that effort axis, you really need to go high because you want to get that top mark on the y-axis. But here you just, you know, you get to the 80, you get to the 85, wherever you get to it, how much effort you need, that's how much effort I think you should put in. Don't forget about the rest of your life. Like Rajan said, like you have other hobbies, you have other things you want to do in life. Those, don't let dentistry take over your life.
Hey, that's awesome advice. Awesome advice. Hussein, Rajan, do you guys want to chime in here?
I can just add a little bit. Yeah, I agree with Danilo. Exactly same thing. It's just, I want to preface it by saying it also depends if you know you want to specialize or not, because if you're going down the specialization route, then in that case, like they do look at your grades and your extracurriculars and other activities. So it's important to keep that in mind. But I think the majority of us students like decide, if you know you're not going to specialize, then that's exactly true. Like I think it's a skill that you'll quickly learn starting from first term, and that they just throw a lot at you. And if you want to study, like you can study for 24 hours and so you're going to still have materials to study. So it's important to learn to know what's important and actually like relevant to the profession, and you kind of pick and choose and really focus on those, so that as Dylan mentioned, you are confident, because when you walk in the clinic, you do want to know what you're doing, right? But then other stuff that you decide that aren't as relevant to, you know, your future and your job, you can kind of pass on those so you don't have to study as much. And yeah, basically, and this is one thing that I got told by my second year buddy when I was in first year, and I didn't really pay attention to it until later. And it's that they're going to throw a lot of material at you, especially academically in first year. And you have to like decide if you want to, for example, put that one Sunday morning till afternoon for yourself to like spend time with your family and whatever, do your hobbies, and make sure you block that time out and leave it, because if you don't unconsciously make that decision, again, there's a lot of material that they're going to throw at you and it's going to creep into there. And soon enough, you're going to see that you're compromising your health and all the other important aspects of your life. So make sure to be intentional about that, and put time aside for those things.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I can also add a little bit to that. I was actually pretty shocked when I entered into dental school. I thought that dental school, because it was a graduate or a professional program, it was going to be so intense and I would be studying 24/7 and I would have no time for anything. But I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or if it's what everybody else feels, but I personally found dental school to be a lot easier up till now than undergrad. And the reason being is that I think the material is a lot more clinically relevant. So all the stuff that you're studying is not something that you don't care about. It's all stuff that you do care about and is something that you will use in practice. And I do think that they work at a good pace, and the way that things are scheduled, it's not super overwhelming. So I've done my first 2 years of school, and I would say the only part that was overwhelming is maybe just first year finals in December, because there was a bunch of them in a row. But even then, it was all manageable, and everybody does well. Like the averages for our class are always like 85 for like basically every single test. So everyone does well, and like Danilo said, the range in which the scores are, like the standard deviation, is very, very small. So everyone will do well. And even if you do want to specialize, that 85 average is still a very, very good average to be able to specialize. So a lot of students that graduate from UBC, they really don't have much of a problem in finding specialties, especially in the States, because our grades in general are pretty high. I think the school is pretty lenient with the way they do their tests. Like they don't make them ridiculously hard or anything, so that it's actually achievable to get good grades. So that's just my opinion. I don't know if our other two students feel the same, but
to add to that, I believe UBC doesn't send out class rankings when it comes to any kind of applications for a specialty program. So if you send out if I was applying somewhere and they're like, oh, Danilo got an 84, it looks great, but then when you put that in the class rankings, I'd be like maybe rank 30th, so like midway through the class. It doesn't look as great. I'm an average student, but the 84 looks really good. So when UBC sends out their grades to specialty programs, they only send out your average, and you look good. So if you're an average student, you're gonna be a above average applicant, I believe, when you're applying to specialty schools.
Yeah, there seems to be a common theme, because I've given a very, very similar talk like this essentially for the past 4 or 5 years. And so a lot of these guys who are now practicing and are out there, of course, as my clients, we still talk, we still meet, and we still, sometimes I'll have them come as guest speaking. And the theme that I sort of found, and I've spent a lot of years at UBC as well, having done several degrees there. But when I was doing my MBA there, a lot of times the greatest advice people were giving was really try to learn as much as you can outside of the textbooks. And I think it's because they said that the grades they pretty much said, I don't think anyone is ever going to ask to even see your grades. And in my case, no one ever did. And really, some of the people who were too hyper focused on the grades, and they were sort of saying, oh, why would I go to that extra clinic? It's not, I'm not going to be graded on it or anything like that. Whereas the people who said, I want to go to as many different things to learn as many different things I can, and completely regardless of whether there's a mark attached to it or not, those tended to be the people who became the most successful. And I think hearing what you guys are saying over here, I think the competition is now finished. You've made it. You've got in. The competition is done. Now it's, in my opinion, now is the time to be as selfish as you possibly can and try to use your 4 years to put as much into your head and as much into your hands as you possibly can. Because once those 4 years are done, it's done. How you're going to, the skill set you have for those patients is all that's going to matter, or the things that that you learn in order to be a good dentist, and whether it be practice management, whether it be that's kind of the window that you have. I don't think the grades are too relevant anymore. So for those first years over here, I think there does have to be a little bit of a mind shift. The other thing, and Rajan kind of alluded to this, is that they set up a schedule that it's manageable. And that's another thing I've heard. But some of the other things that I find from my other clients of why it's so manageable is because there seems to be a lot of collaborative learning going on. There seems to be a lot of groupthink. There seems to be a lot of people working together. You always accelerate much faster when you're working together in a group. In undergrad, maybe, why would I want to work so when I'm competing against these people? Well, now we've kind of removed that competition out, and now people are there to help each other. And I know because UBC Dentistry is a small, tight group, everyone knows each other, even to the point they even know the other people in the other years. And I think from what I've heard and from what I've seen, everyone seems to be very friendly. Everyone seems to be willing to help each other out, give advice, to collaborate over here, which I would believe is one of the reasons why maybe it is more manageable with the workloads, and maybe the tests aren't that bad when people are kind of tackling them all together. I'm going to shift a little bit over here to some other questions. So one of them over here is, are there any opportunities to shadow specialists while training at UBC to get a picture of what these specialties look like?
Yes, there was in my time. With COVID times, I'm not sure how it's gonna work next year, but there is the specialists a lot of the time work solo, and they appreciate having an assistant. So the endodontist, so the root canal specialist, they often need, like, having some extra hands is nice, and usually it ends up being just you're gonna see that there's certain uniforms at UBC. So like the people that are DMD program, they have light blue or light green scrubs. Anyone in dark blue scrubs is going to be a specialist of some kind, either endodontist, prosthodontist, periodontist, orthodontist. And you can just go up to them, meet them once, like, hey, like, if you ever need an assistant, like, please let me know. I'd love to, like, learn more and just kind of help out. And a lot of times they'll say yes. They always like some extra hands.
Danilo, is this something that you personally have to seek out, or is this something the school kind of says, oh, if you want to specialize, talk to this guy or go to this wing, or is it something you're kind of hunting out yourself?
The school, the current setup, I think they're gonna plan on changing it soon because they realize it works well, but the current setup is very kind of solo practicing dentistry, no kind of like collaborating. And so that's why I kind of had to find these assisting opportunities on my own in first and second year. But it's looking like that, because like even in first and second year, you get, I think, per year 2 or 3 like opportunities where you go and like assist an upper year and you like write a essay about it, like, oh, like, what did I learn about this? It's like very kind of like formal and not what you really want it to be. You want it to be like something that happens often where you learn a lot, rather than you just kind of go in once or twice a year to kind of see what the clinic's like. So you have to in my setup back when I was first and second year, you have to figure it out on your own. I'm curious to see though how it's going to be for these new first years coming in, if it's going to be the same setup or if they're going to maybe figure out something new. But from what I heard, the talks are they're leaning towards creating a system where the lower years start assisting the upper years. So the lower years get clinical experience and the upper years get to book more patients that way. Because they're not assisting each other anymore, they're going to have lower years assisting them. But just one quick thing I'd like to add about the specialties. Don't think that a general dentist is the same as a family doctor. It's really, really different. So when you have a family doctor, you're pretty much just kind of there a lot of times dealing with colds and referring to other kind of like specialist doctors for like, some like kind of exams, like a cardiologist or something. But as a dentist, you're everything and you can be everything. You can put on braces as a dentist, you can do root canals, you can do implants, you can do everything that you are trained to do. You don't need to specialize into something to do that certain thing. Being a specialist just means you're willing to take the hardest cases of that field of dentistry and do them, and you're going to get paid 30% more to do it. That's what being a specialist means. So if every dentist in Vancouver does root canals, but they just send the hard root canals to the endodontist because they don't want to do them, because if they mess up, they don't have the credentials to prove that they were good enough to do this to begin with. And if they mess up, it's just like a bigger headache than the money's worth for the procedure. So don't think that like, oh, like, I want to do braces, I have to be an orthodontist. You can do braces almost full-time or full-time in a practice and not be an orthodontist. So just always keep that in mind. A general dentist can do everything.
Hey, that's great advice. Great advice. And then along that line, you know, a question here is, are there any sort of recommended or useful programs in the summertime to kind of improve clinical skills? I'm not sure what it's like during COVID, but let's just pretend we go back to normal over here. So what are some of the things in the summer you could do to continue to keep improving?
So I guess I can touch on this one. In the summertime, when you are in third year, there is the opportunity to do the summer student practitioner program, which I haven't done yet because I am not there yet. So maybe Neil has more to say, but I don't think they did it either because of COVID. But generally what it is during the summer between third and fourth year, you're able to go to a private practice and you kind of get like a temporary license. And so then during those, I think it's a 6-week program, you get to practice with an actual dentist and you do real dentistry. But none of us so far have done it yet. So I don't know. I can't comment about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, many of my clients from the past actually said very good things about it. I think with COVID, it made it very, very challenging. What I was helping them do is a lot of times, to my understanding, it was kind of up to the student to kind of reach out to these dentists and to sort of kind of get them on board with having them come in. And some of them might not have been from the area or didn't know the dentist or things of that sort. And of course, this is kind of one of the advantages of how I was able to help them. And that advantage was that I know a lot of dentists because I've got a huge pool of dentists who are all part of my dental community. And once I know that someone is looking for something like that, it's not that hard for me to just put out the feelers and see if anybody knows someone or if somebody is sort of willing. So for any of the young people who did have some problems and who was trying to, you know, get involved, but they couldn't find a dentist for the SSPP program, then by all means, if you were my client, you can absolutely lean on me for that. A question comes here. Do you get paid for doing this work? Does anyone know the answer to that? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
You pay 60,000 to make money for UBC.
Yeah, yeah. So I think in your tuition, you're the one paying to do the learning, and by doing this, you're more or less sort of volunteering over here. No, but that's
you don't make them that much though. Like I look through. You can check on the kind of the databases at UBC. I think I made them like $6,000 for now, so they're not really milking me too hard. Just like $6,000 worth of fillings and crowns and stuff. So it's and like if I got paid 6,000, it really wouldn't make that much of a difference considering how expensive the tuition is. So yeah, you don't get paid anything. You just the money goes back to the clinic in order to kind of fund everything.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so a couple of these questions are a little bit, you know, diverse. So here's a question about loops. So loops, of course, is what everyone needs in order to practice dentistry, kind of like the eye goggles things. So this obviously is going to be a very biased one, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm promoting or not promoting a brand or a loop. But here is the question, and it will be answered by you guys. You know, is there a recommended kind of loop brand that anyone has used? Another one I know that has been asked in the past is should someone always buy a new pair of loops or is buying a used pair just as good? So I guess the reason why this is so important is because pretty much you're using this all the time and you're using it for the full 4 years. But right away, the representative of the loops companies, providers, they're kind of all over you, kind of talking about this, and all of a sudden you're a little bit confused. But what is your guys' opinions on the brands of the loops and how to purchase them and all of those things?
Yeah, I can comment. So what happened in first year was that there were several different companies, maybe 10, I want to say, and they all came to one evening session that the faculty had set up. And we were able to go to that session and try on all the different loops from the different companies. And I would say in my class, it's very varied, all the companies that everybody went with, because people find different things more comfortable. So I wouldn't say that there's a specific one that's better than others. You're able to try them all on and you're able to see what works best for you. I personally use Univet. I know other people who use Univet. I'm happy with them, but that doesn't mean that Univet's better than others. I just haven't worn the other ones for an extended period of time, so I can't comment. The other thing is that there's two different loops that you can buy. So one of them are flip ups. So with flip ups, it basically just means that the zoomed in, because they're basically like eyeglasses, and then they have this little lens, which is like the zoom in part that allows you to see the teeth more clearly. And with flip ups, you can basically flip up the zoom in part up, or you can put it down. So you can see both with the zoom and without the zoom. And the other ones are, other loops are called through the lens. So they're called TTLs. And with those, they always stay in one spot. So you can't flip them up and down. They're always going to be there on top of the glasses. And the difference between them, besides that, is that with the flip ups, those are more adjustable. So if you are looking to buy off an upper year, you would probably buy the flip ups, because those can be adjusted based on your working distance and all that. Whereas with through the lens, those are custom made. So because they are custom made, they kind of only fit you and your working distance. So those are less adjustable. In terms of what dentists use in practice, dentists primarily use the through the lens ones. And usually if students buy flip ups from upper years, they'll probably just kind of use them for their first 2 years and then sell them and then end up switching over to through the lens anyway. So that's generally the pattern that we've seen in dentistry. A lot of times in first year, I know last year's first year class, the faculty really tried to convince them that flip ups were the best thing ever and that you should only buy flip ups. Most of our class didn't buy flip ups. We bought through the lens just because we thought it would make more sense, because if we're going to use them long term, because the loops that you buy in dental school, you probably will be using them in practice later on. So just make sure you try the different types and you find one that's the most comfortable, because it is quite a bit of an investment and you want something that's going to be able to be useful when you are practicing later on. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
Yeah, just to quickly add on to Rajan, yeah, I agree with her. And also, I do know two of my classmates that bought secondhand, as Rajan was mentioning, from an upper year. But with those, obviously, you've got to get the flip ups because you can adjust it to yourself. However, they got it, and then they practiced through first year to kind of get learn what their angle is, kind of get used to like what working distance they have, what angle they want to work at, what magnification. And then they were able to sell it at the end of second year. And then now they're buying the through the lens that are customized for you. So that was a really neat strategy, I thought, because they kind of get a trial run and kind of get all the specs ready, and then they get the more expensive loops, which are through the lens. But yeah, and then also just I use Design for Vision. I know Rajan uses Univet. We all use different companies, but I can tell like I got pretty good service, and the service rep was always there if I had questions about it. But yeah, I don't know about the other brands.
To add to that, I guess. So I started with flip ups because it was what they recommended. I didn't know what else to do. They were like, oh, everyone should start with flip ups. Looking back, I'm happy that I did, because when you start getting the loops, you get them so early, you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. And, you're supposed to figure out where you want to work from, like what distance. You have to figure out kind of what angle of your head you want to have. Like you can't figure that out that early. It takes time. And so that's why I'm happy I got flip ups in the beginning, because with the flip ups, so I got my glasses here. I have contacts on, so I can't really see with these on. But so with the TTLs, it looks like you have like the loop is like built in here. Like you have like a telescope thing that's like built into the glass, and the flip ups on the nose bridge, you have like a mechanism that you can lift and lower the telescopes with. And so with the flip ups, not only when you lift and lower, you can change at what angle you work with, because if you really lower them low, you can keep your head almost straight while you're working. But if you keep them kind of straight, you bend your neck down more, and everyone's kind of comfortable with different positions. And when you have the flip ups, you can adjust the interpupillary distance, which is why you're able to share them, because my interpupillary distance and Hossein's pupillary distance are going to be different. But with the flip ups, you can adjust that, and you can match it to your own eyes. And so that's why you can kind of buy used ones, and you can even buy my used ones. I'll put them up for sale because I need to sell those, because I have loops already that I need to sell. But so I suggest starting with flip ups because you have absolutely no idea what you're doing when you start, and you want to figure out what's comfortable for you. And then later on, when you figure out what angle and what distance you like, at that point, then you're like, okay, I can put in an order for TTLs at this angle and at this angle and at this distance, because the TTLs, when they're built into the lens and there's not this crazy mechanism on your face, they're a lot lighter. And you'll see when you're wearing these things for multiple hours at a time and all this weight's on your nose, like having a few grams less makes a huge difference. And so yeah, I'd start with the flip-ups for sure. And I use Exam Vision. They're the most expensive ones, but I like them the most. I think I bought and you'll see you have different magnifications. So you got 2.5 up to 6.4 magnification. So you have all these huge ranges of how much zoom you want. And so I started with 2.5, and it was a great start because I think starting 2.5 or 3 is really good, because if you're too zoomed in at the start, you're gonna have no idea what you're doing. But then you slowly build that up, and you want more and more magnification. You want to see more and more. And I ended up buying the Exam Vision. They're called the Kepler Advanced. They're like multi-mag, so I can spin them, and I can change my magnification now, and I can go from 3.5 to 6.4 times zoom. And that's been really nice, having the multiple magnifications for depending on which procedure I'm doing. If I'm doing a root canal, I'm only looking at that single tooth. So having it on the maximum magnification is really nice. But if, let's say, I'm doing a filling, I need to compare how this tooth looks to the teeth next to it, I don't want as much magnification. So I like them for that, but they're pricey. I paid I think 4.6 G's on that one. It was a pricey pair of loops, but when you compare $60,000 a year for school, paying an extra 1,000 or 2 on these loops really doesn't seem as bad. So just keep in mind, whenever you're buying loops, if you see a really, really nice pair that really fit you well and they feel really nice, but they cost $1,000 more, just remember $1,000 is about the price you pay to be in clinic once or twice. Because let's say you get to be in clinic 30 times. I was in patient care 30 times, or I was in patient care 15 times in first semester of third year, because we had very low capacity because of COVID. And I paid $15,000 of clinic fees in first semester. So every time I went in to see a patient, I paid $1,000 pretty much. A patient canceled on me, I paid $1,000 for a patient to cancel. So things are expensive. So just compare how much you're paying in tuition compared to your loops. It's nothing. So I already bought a second pair of loops. So I have 2 pairs now. I bought lights for them as well. Those things get pricey. Those are $600, $700. Oh yeah, I'd say after you get your loops, right away get the light. The light is so important. They're gonna want you to use that overhead light, but the overhead lights we have at school, they're like car headlights. They're yellow and terrible. They're not what good overhead lights are. Get the ones that are the LEDs that are attached to your forehead. Infinitely better. Way better. I'd say the light is more important than the magnification at this point, for me at least.
Just to add a quick point, I know that they do give student discounts for the loops. So we haven't done it because we're just entering third year, but I know people get loops in first year, and they also get a second pair in fourth year, just before they graduate, because they know they're probably going to need more than one set of loops during work. So I know that's one thing that they do. Also for the lights, definitely. I actually switched to a light on my loop in second year, and so I only realized it then. Throughout first year, I was using overhead lights, and switching actually makes a big difference. So I definitely recommend it. But what I ended up doing is I actually went on Amazon and bought just a random a normal light they have on Amazon that you can use it for multi-purpose, and I attached it to my loop, so it's a bit different. But I was able to get it for under $100, and I know lights sometimes go up to $500. So if you do a bit of digging, maybe you can find other things as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I just want to be a bit mindful of time here, but I thought this would be a really good segue actually off of what Danilo has just said. You know, some mistakes to avoid that I've seen in the past, you know, on a financial side over here are things like budgeting. A lot of people that they're not accustomed to suddenly having all these expenses, especially maybe some people have moved out here, and except they have this $350,000 student loan. But the most dangerous thing you could happen is come fourth year, you actually run out of money. You know, just because, yeah, you know, your budget planning is you've got this large student loan that you're living off of, but it's hard to kind of segregate and how to separate all of that over there. So some mistakes I would recommend, being the financial guy, is number one, make sure you have a budget of some sort of cash flow management system, which is, you know, what I like to do with my clients if they need the help. Just to map out, okay, will be first year, this will be second, this will be third. Because sometimes weird things happen, like suddenly, you know, maybe you need a car, or maybe you're not living on campus, you're living elsewhere, or maybe you're with a partner, or you're married or something of that sort. And then trying to understand, because I have had instances where people actually ran out of money. A lot of times, you know, maybe someone's got a partner who's not working, and the two of you are living together, but that's now 2 meals that you're living off of. So some sort of budget planning would be advisable entering into first year. Another thing is, when we talk about student loans over here, you know, the relationship that you have with the bank, the banks are also all going to want you to sign up with their student loan. A lot of times people will look carefully at what is the interest rate. Prime minus a quarter seems to be the going rate, but it's also what's the maximum level. Sometimes they'll give you, waive the fees on credit cards, sometimes waive the fees on the checking account, things of that sort. I've always found that the greatest relationship that you have with the bank is actually the banker that you're dealing with. How quick they are to answer your questions, how quick they are to help you out, you know, how much they can get for you. So I'm not going to promote any one bank over here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know, if you've got a great relationship with your bank, see what they're offering, and if they're offering pretty much what the other ones are, I would actually stick with them, to be honest, because you already have a great relationship with them. Now, if you're a bit of a blank slate and you can go with any bank, by all means. Now, one of the things that tends to change also is each year, sometimes one bank will offer something more than what the other banks offer. So I can get advice from these three guys right now, but this year it might be someone different that's offering something a little bit more. So again, there's usually a financial night, and the banks sort of come out. But whenever my clients ask me, I always ask my other clients to sort of see, what's the rate you guys are getting? What are the other things? And then I could use that information to communicate. And the other big one is, of course, disability insurance, which is why most people become my clients during school. Danilo, Hossein, and Rajan are all disability insurance clients. I would say make the right decision if you understand it and believe it's the right thing to do earlier, then that's great. If you don't think it's the right thing to do, don't get pressured into doing it. All of my clients, whenever I talk about disability insurance, I sort of weigh out the pros and cons. There's several people that offer disability insurance, such as myself. But what you want to do is you want to go with the person who you think is going to be a good fit. The quick thing about disability insurance is pretty much we're all going with the exact same company, and that's Manulife. You're going to hear a lot more about that in many other lectures. But what you really want to do is try to understand, well, what's the relationship I want to have with the person providing me with this disability insurance? He's my first financial. When you guys graduate and you start practicing, you're going to have a financial team. You're going to have a lawyer. You're going to have an accountant. You should have a financial advisor, an insurance advisor. Well, if I'm, you know, your insurance advisor, probably later becoming your financial advisor as well, you want to think, well, what's the relationship that I want to have with him? And I think that's what's most important when adding people to your financial team, what you could kind of learn from them. So what I want to do, a little plug for myself, Manulife, which is what most people are going to go with for their disability insurance. You want to, Manulife is the last insurance company giving a 4A occupation class. All of the other ones give a 3A. If you get a 3A, that means the price of the insurance is actually higher, but what they're covering you for is actually less. So you want to stick with a 4A company, and Manulife is the only 4A company that's left. And right now I have a very good relationship with Manulife because I have been their top advisor in BC from 2017 to now. So about myself a little bit, you know, how am I different? And I can sort of put any one of these guys on the spot a little bit. I think one of the ways that I'm different as an advisor is that I really care about education for my clients. So it's not just about, you know, signing them up for some disability insurance. I have so many clients that are dentists that I want to share that knowledge with the existing clients. I want them to learn how to become the best possible dental owner that you can be. And unfortunately, dental school doesn't teach that. So I give a lot of client workshops. There's a lot of other workshops that people will do that are outside of dentistry. They want to learn how to run a dental practice, or they want to learn more about stock investing or real estate investing. Those are the types of things how I'm a little bit different than the other advisors, because I'm very active in giving educational workshops and educational opportunities for my existing clients, including networking with other dentists. So here, now would probably be a good time if those who first years want to start formulating their questions. By all means, put them in the chat and we'll field them, and then we'll read out those questions over here to answer them. But so take a moment, and if anyone has a question, now's the time to stick it in the chat, and I will ask it. While we're waiting on those questions over here, again, I want to talk a little bit about my relationship with my clients. I'm very big into creating opportunities for them to network or for them to learn. So, you know, I believe, Danilo, this was 2 years ago when it was at, that was at the Tap and Barrel in at the PDC, at the Pacific at Dental Conference. And over here was just a, you know, it was a fun time to grab a drink, to meet some other people, meet some other dentists that I was able to introduce them to. And this is very common. These are the types of things that I like to do for my clients. In the bottom left over here, this over here was an educational workshop. I think it was a Saturday morning. You know, Hussein, I believe you were there at this one. And we were probably learning about, you know, either about a dental practice or about real estate or about investing or something along that line, you know. And my relationship with my clients has always been like that. I like to give, you know, I like to rent out a restaurant or rent out to do a private client event. And then in that event, I like to invite dentists to go to those events, other clients of mine or other colleagues of mine that I know, and just to have them mingle and just to have them meet each other. And I think this one over here was the one that we did at Earl's in Yaletown. And it was just, you know, a fun night. Overall, it was just a fun night to mingle with classmates or upper years, or mingle with people that had already been graduated, or mingle with these other dentists who happen to be, you know, friends of mine as well. So this summer, I am doing another one. Now, the date hasn't been set. I'm trying to figure out kind of the COVID restrictions and things of that sort, if it makes sense to have something on a patio or if it have something at the beach. But for those of you first years, even though I haven't met any of you, I would love to meet you. And I'm sure you would love to meet, you know, other dental students or other practicing dentists. I'll keep it really informal. If you'd like an invitation, once I actually figure out, you know, when I'm doing this, it'll probably be in August. If you just want to take note of my cell number, my emails this summer are off the chart, you know, hundreds of emails. So might get lost there. Text message is the fastest. If you said, hey, Christian, I was at your first year dental advice event. And if you are going to have some sort of a summer event with you know, other dental students, clients of yours, I'd love to come as a guest. Absolutely. Text message me. My number is there, 604-202-9178. Just let me know your name. And then once I've got you on my text message, then once I figure out the date, I will just fire you a quick invite, and then I hope to see you there. So, you know, my dental community, what is it like? It really is about me creating opportunities and events. This one over here is a fundraiser for a volunteer trip going overseas. So what I did was, I know the person who runs the program, Dr. David Naima. I just bought a couple tables. I just invited out my dentist students who were able to come, those who are interested in the overseas work. Um, I've also, during lunch have done little things. A lot of them are student led. If they said, "Hey, I'd like to learn a little bit more about, running a dental practice, or I'd like to learn a little bit more about real estate in Vancouver." These were the types of things that I was able to do just on campus over here. And then in fourth year over here, and Danilo, this would apply to you. In fourth year, I usually will reach out to my individual fourth year clients and go for a lunch and start to do some planning. Start to do some planning when they're about to graduate. Start to do seeing if I could support them in finding a job, seeing if I could support them in in figuring out an area that they want to try to go to over here. So usually the fourth years right before they graduate, I do some graduation financial planning with them. But I've always had a very close relationship with all of my clients over here, and that's why I call it my dental community. And the nice thing about having a community is we all help each other, which is why I've had these wonderful guests over here giving this advice to the first years. And I rented out for the Superman premiere. I remember I rented out the movie theater just to have one big fun event over here. But I also like to do a lot of academic things. My clients, most of them know that my background is actually in education. So I have 4 university degrees, all from UBC. Mathematics was my first one over here, and then I eventually moved into business. But I love teaching. I absolutely love teaching. And so at my office, I have 2 offices in Vancouver. I would hold these Saturday morning kind of lectures, and I would teach about, these are some of the past topics I've talked about: dental practice marketing, financial accounting, real estate, loan payback, stock analysis. And these are all a lot student-led things as well. And I'm also a big volunteer, and I encourage people to be volunteers as well. So I know some dental clients, want to get more involved overseas. That's another thing that I could help with. I know the school has some opportunities, but I actually lead teams overseas. I've been to Guatemala probably 7 times. I've been to Southeast Asia about 4 times. So I continue to run projects. And the nice thing is, because I have so many dental clients and I have so many connections as well, a lot of times dentistry is part of the trips that I do. So again, it's one of those things, if someone was interested beyond what just the school might be able to set up, it's another way that I could support and help as well. When I say that things are student-led, we had this one workshop over here on investing basics, stocks versus real estate. And all of my clients know me. I'm a big time real estate guy. I've always encouraged real estate. I know an enormous amount about real estate. And so I'm really good. And that doesn't mean I don't like the stock market, but I love teaching how to analyze. I love teaching the difference between the two. And a lot of clients, when I say it's a client-led event, what I mean by that is, if you can't make like a weekend workshop, maybe you're in clinic or you're doing something else, I invited a bunch of my clients. Danilo, I think you did this once, where I said, get a small group of classmates, 4 or 5 of them, and I will give you guys a private session. And I'm the guy who brings lunch, and I'll have it just at my office on Broadway over there. And I remember, Danilo, I think, spearheaded one of those, and it was like, hey, I didn't make the last one, but I missed some good information. Can we have it again? And I said, yeah, let's get a couple classmates together, and I'd be happy to do so. So, some of the big time dentists that I'm affiliated with, like Dr. Matt Cathan in Oregon, he came to lecture for me, I think 3 times now. And I set up these lecture opportunities, and he opened up 5 dental practices within 8 years. And he's a young man too. And getting him to explain how he did it, the process of how he did it, and the courses he took in order to help support him after dental school, they were all incredibly invaluable valuable. As a matter of fact, for my clients, I always say I record most of the lectures that I do. And even though he lectured over the past 3 years, I still have the recording of those lectures, and I could share them again if you were a client of mine, because that's the community that I'm developing over here. So we had another one on financial accounting for dentists. And the reason why this one was so important is because you are going to finish dental school, and many of you are going to either buy a clinic or open a clinic, but from a financial perspective, you won't know how to read the financial statements or the accounting. So we had Provisions come in, who's one of my partners, and they gave us a great lecture on how to read financial statements, and they will be coming again this year, and I am going to be setting something up so that we continue to learn more financial accounting. So again, I kind of say, use your 4 years, learn as much as you possibly can from it. And when you get close to graduation, for my clients, I've set you up with the financial plan to help you to transition. If you need help reading those dental associate agreements, I'm partnered up with lawyers who can help to read them for you. If you're going to buy a business, I'm a great resource on how you would structure it with the bank. I'm dealing with multiple dental clients right now who are opening up practices in the Lower Mainland. And of course, I always set up these mastermind group collaborations as well. So graduation financial plan usually starts with a discovery meeting, me figuring out how I can help you, and then we navigate, what the next steps are. Something exciting, Danilo, for you and Hossein and Rajan as well. I was going to do this in 2020, COVID hit. I was going to do this in 2021. Still, COVID was lingering. So now we're aiming for 2022. So it's super exciting. But for all of my clients, I am a member of the Terminal City Club in downtown Vancouver. And I was going to have my own graduation event for my clients because I have so many of them. So this is going to be a dinner on me, 3-course meal or open buffet. I was going to bring in a bunch of, dental ex-UBC dental students who are now practicing, have them come and sort of give a little speech and have you guys mingle with them. I was going to have an open bar. I was going to have cab rides home. Danilo, I know you're excited already. Now, here's the thing, though. I promised the guys who graduated in 2020, and it never happened. I promised the guys who graduated in 2021, never happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to collaborate all 3 classes, 2020, 2021, and 2022 of my clients this coming year in April. And I'm going to set a date and I'm going to invite people out to this thing. But you got to be a client, right? You got to be a client. But I think it's going to be a really fun night. And I think it'll be a great way to kind of kick off the ending of COVID, but so that one's to come. That one's to come. For those of you in first year, I am going to invite you to a private sushi lunch so I can get to know you guys a little bit better. Stay tuned for the invites. That'll be done through the school as well. But questions. I have 1 or 2 more lingering questions, but I'm going to do a last roundup for questions. If anybody online has a question, please put it in the chat. But here's one of the other questions here. And it is, when would you start studying for the board exams? And is there any sort of tips on how to study for the board exams while you're in school? So I know that might be a little bit far for Hussein and Rajan, but Danilo?
I haven't even studied for board exams yet.
But board exams is usually in 4th year in March, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then right away, maybe I should have had somebody who just finished. So from what I understand is that it gets, you're so busy and you don't really study them till the end, but the keeners will start to study over their Christmas break. That's what I've heard from my other clients over there. And then how to prep for the US board exams. Does anybody have any comments on prepping for the US board exams on top of the Canadian board exams?
I haven't even thought that far yet because I
Yes.
just finished second year.
I
Those US board exams just changed. So it used to be a two-part exam where you do first part would be general like science stuff like you did in the DAT, and the second part would be more clinical dentistry based stuff. And so people would take the first part earlier when all the DAT info and the first year dental like science info is kind of in your mind. So they do it between first and second year. But now that it's a combined exam, people are kind of pushing that to do it later when they get more of the dental knowledge. So kind of between third and fourth year. But if it's something you want to consider, I'd also think about where you want to work in the States. Some of the states only need the Canadian board. That's enough for them. I think just down south in Washington State, I believe right now it's just the Canadian board is enough. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but that's what I've heard. I haven't checked myself. So before you start thinking, oh, I'm going to the States, I need a States board exam, you might not. So keep that in mind. And just some like closing remarks for me about all this insurance stuff. So if you decide to go with the disability insurance, like I did, like a big reason I did it is just like the peace of mind that if I get some kind of shoulder injury playing volleyball or something, I don't have to worry about going to the chiropractor or going to physiotherapist. I can just go worry free because I got my disability insurance already. And Christian's going to tell you more about that later, about how like if you have a previous injury, how it can affect your disability insurance in the future. But if you're going to be getting insurance, there's no reason not to go with Christian. He gives you all this extra stuff, all this extra education, all these extra social events, and he really goes beyond just the insurance for you, whereas some of the other insurance providers. And so Christian hasn't paid me, to say any of this. He hasn't given me a script. This is all for me. Some of the other insurance providers, I've seen them kind of be more like car salesmen. Will they really work hard to get that initial sale out of you to get you to buy the car, and then when you buy the car, they just completely forget about you, and you don't get any kind of ongoing help. Whereas with Christian, you're going to get ongoing help, social events, overall good time. I've been a happy client the last 3.5 years, I guess. So I suggest, if you're going to get insurance, I suggest you do the same.
Hey, thank you very much, Danilo. Like I probably communicate with Danilo multiple times during the year, and inviting him to multiple things during the year. But I kind of say for my client, it is what you get of it. I can invite you to 20 different things, and you can say no to every single one of them, and that's okay. But for somebody who says, I want the absolute most out of my 4 years over here, and maybe it does make sense for me to get my disability insurance early just so I don't have to worry about the rates changing or the rules changing or my health changing. I think the one real thing that I love doing is I really, really, really love teaching. I honestly really love teaching. And if that could be through me literally teaching and showing you guys how to run a dental practice, but from a financial side, or showing you how to invest in the stock market or the real estate market, I love that stuff. It's not like an annoying thing. But I also really, really love setting up my clients to learn from other people, which is exactly what we're doing right now. And we've got these 3 wonderful volunteers over here, passing forward the information that they've got. And then one day, some of you young guys who are entering, maybe this will be you in 3 or 4 years passing down the information. But if we look a little bit further ahead, we now got many of my other clients over here who are now practicing, and they're sharing their information. And this year alone, I've already got a few of them that I've reached out to and asked to volunteer to say, I've got a couple of guys who are opening up clinics in Vancouver this year, and I've asked them to just kind of talk about their journey, about their challenges, about their do's and don'ts, and they've already all said yes. I've never asked a client to be a guest speaker or to help out another client and them say no. And when you mention the US, that's confusing stuff down there. And I have multiple clients in the US, and they're all more than happy to talk to an existing client. And I know this because I've already reached out to a couple to set a few people up. So, I think that it really is going to be a fast 4 years. I don't think anyone has ever said it didn't go by fast. It does go by fast. You want to try to learn as much as you possibly can over here. I don't want to take too much more time. I think we've kind of passed my 1 hour mark. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to put my cell phone there again. If anyone would like to text message me because they would like to, come to a summer event that I'm setting up as a guest, I'm more than happy to have you there, meet with some of my other, dental student clients. If you want to email me directly, I'm at cdy@latitude-west.ca. And if you want to just set up a time to chat and see how I could help, a couple of other first years entering in September have already reached out to me, and then them and I have already, started talking. And 100% for sure, you got to join the Instagram at Latitude West Financial. Stay on the Instagram, keep following it. But right now, I don't think I want to take up too much more of anybody's time. I know some people might have a lot more questions over there, but you know what? Why don't you just ask me directly? Ask me your questions directly and I'll help you as much as I possibly can. But Danilo, Hussein, Rajan, I want to thank you guys, for helping out. With COVID kind of fully lifts, I'm sure that it'll be nice for them to actually see a recognizable face. The one thing I'm going to say to all the first years is that if they're my client, they're friendly. All my clients have always been very, very friendly. So if you're kind of, wandering through the halls and you see one of these guys, feel free to say hi to them and said, oh, you're one of Christian's clients. And I was on that first year talk and you gave me some really great advice and I wanted to say thank you. Please do that. Please do that because it is one big community. And that's what I believe. I believe in a community environment. I think we're all here to help each other. When I have 2 master's degrees. When I finished my master's degrees of education, when I finished my master's degrees of MBA, both of them both of those degrees, everyone kind of worked in a community feel where we weren't competing with each other. We were trying to all help each other. When I started my practice over 15 years ago, I wanted the same thing. I wanted a group of people that were all helping each other so that we could succeed. Because why do we need to reinvent the wheel? We can all help each other. I'm a big community guy. And that's why, much like everybody else, I like to socialize. I like to have fun. But at the same time, I like to help as many people as I can. So once again, Danilo, Hussein, Rajan, thank you guys very, very much for helping out. I think the advice that I think the advice that you guys gave has been really, really important. And if anybody wants to reach out specifically, maybe to ask any of these guys a specific question, feel free to go through me and I'll redirect your question to them. They remind me that they're happy to help. Okay. All right. So
you can find me on Facebook and shoot me a message directly as well if you want. I don't think there's many Danilos on there, so just find me. You can message me. I'm glad to connect with other dental students and answer any questions you might have.
Hey, thanks a lot, Danilo. But for everyone else, thanks for joining. And if you're listening to the recorded link, by all means, feel free to continue to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you as much as I can. So give me a text message, even letting me know how this session went for you. I'm happy to hear from you and I'm happy to talk to you if there's any way that I could help. But I'm going to wish you guys the rest of a good summer and make sure that you guys are all staying safe. I think you're going to love UBC Dental School. I can't say enough good things about it. I've been involved with the school for almost 10 years now. And I think that they do a really, really great job. And I think that you're going to make what I would say is lifelong friends. I know people, some of my closest friends are dentists from UBC Dental School. They get together once a year, every single year. And they, some of these people become groomsmen and bridesmaids of their wedding. That's the types of friendships that some of you guys are going to establish once you start school. So it's going to be a really exciting time. I'm super excited for you guys. And if I could be there with you on the journey, I'd be happy to do so. So give me a text message just to say hello. And then hopefully I'll see you guys in late August. Okay. Good night, everybody.